Coming up on OU Nightly, we're tracking strong to severe storms making their way into parts of Oklahoma. I'll have more in that coming up in a little bit.
Plus, new details as a government shutdown quickly approaches. Everything you need to know from Washington, D.C. And a rise of migrants crossing the Mexican border. This is OU Nightly.
Thanks for watching OU Nightly. I'm Morgan Martin.
And I'm Eileen Fitzer. We begin tonight with the chance for severe storms in the forecast again.
OU Nightly meteorologist Carla McCreary joins us live in studio with the first look at that timeline.
That's right, ladies. We are tracking these strong to severe storms making their way through parts of especially southern Oklahoma, Norman, and south. That is what we're tracking. And we're also tracking more rainfall in the forecast Saturday, Sunday, and even tomorrow. But current conditions, let's take a look up at the State Fair with Braden Co. Let's take a look at what conditions are like up there on the fairgrounds.
Yeah, Carlin, definitely no severe weather here at the State Fair. It's a great time out here. We've got a bubble machine going, and we've got plenty of vendors here where you can win cool prizes like this. But as far as the weather goes, temperatures are in the lower 80s. We've got plenty of cloud cover, keeping it from being too hot out here. Currently no rain right now, but as we go through the afternoon and evening, there is a slim chance for some rain, but definitely not expecting that severe weather like we are farther south across the state. Carlin will have more on that in the studio. Carlin?
That's right, and that fair forecast once again looking beautiful. We do have that chance for those storms in the forecast though. If you take a look at the severe weather outlook for today, you can see parts of southern Oklahoma are in that slight 2 out of 5 on the Storm Prediction Center scale risk, and that is what we can see that will cause some hazards overnight tonight. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit. I'll also have a little bit more about your State Fair forecast and detailing the timing of when these storms and who will see these storms later on tonight. And we also are going to be talking about a weekend severe weather threat into Saturday night, but I'll have a little bit more about that coming up. But for now, ladies.
Thanks, Carlin. Former OU student Julia Buskin was murdered 26 years ago, and today the man convicted of killing her was put to death. Noah Mack is live in the newsroom with more. Noah?
That's right, Ireland. Anthony Sanchez was executed around 10 a.m. this morning in Oklahoma's third execution of the year. Sanchez was convicted of killing and raping 21-year-old Julia Buskin, a dancer here at OU. The salient piece of evidence that led prosecutors to Sanchez was DNA from Buskin's clothing. It matched with Sanchez, who was already serving time on burglary charges. Sanchez maintained his innocence up until his final moments, claiming the DNA was fabricated. However, he did not apply for clemency, arguing Governor Kevin Stitt would likely not have granted it. Attorney General Gentner Drummond said he spoke with Buskin's family and said they found closure and peace today. Ireland?
Thank you, Noah. And officials in Pottawatomie County have confirmed that a body was found in a drainage culvert just south of Highway 59B. The sheriff says the body could be possibly connected to the disappearance of Michaela Faye Meave Byers, who was last seen on September 15th. Byers was seen leaving her home in a white Chevy pickup truck with a tall, balding man with a dark-colored beard. Officials are asking individuals to come forward with any information regarding this investigation.
And House GOP members in Congress are divided as a shutdown becomes more likely, and the Oklahoma delegation is no exception. Kevin Palomino is in Washington, D.C. with the story.
Time's running out for Congress to agree on a new federal budget before money runs out and the government shuts down on September 30th.
There's a lot of members that are frustrated.
Oklahoma Congresswoman Stephanie Bice is leading negotiations to keep the government open, at least temporarily, with ultra-conservative members of the House Freedom Caucus who are willing to shut down the government if their demands are not met.
These are, difficult conversations. There are some disagreements, but we do feel like that we can come to some sort of agreement. We need to do it quickly, though.
Representative Kevin Hearn, chair of the Republican Study Committee, who showed support for a conservative CR last week, says he wants to spend less in the new budget.
When we have this chance to move forward in new appropriations process, is to reset the spending side.
But a conservative spending gap is unlikely to be approved by a Democratic-controlled Senate, where Senators James Lankford and Markwayne Mullins say there's no time to make demands.
A shutdown's not an option.
It's never going to be partisan. We have to get 60 in the Senate to be able to move anything. So that by definition, it can't be a partisan bill.
But with only a few days left,
It's going to be great.
DC gets louder as hope for a new spending bill grows silent. And to put it into perspective, the partial government shutdown that occurred in 2019 cost the U.S. economy up to $11 billion, according to the Congressional Budget Office. Kevin Palomino for Gaylord News in Washington.
The auto strike continues and the Ukrainian president visits Washington. Emery Johnson has that and the rest of today's national and international headlines from the News Center.
The United Auto Workers Union says their walkout will expand if the nation's 3 largest automakers don't give them a better contract proposal by noon tomorrow. In the past 48 hours, the UAW has met with Ford, GM, and Stellantis to discuss better conditions. The Big Three have started to lay off thousands of workers in response to the long list of demands made by the union. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky is in Washington, D.C. today, hoping to convince lawmakers to continue supporting Ukraine. Zelensky met with members of the House and Senate before going to the Pentagon and White House to meet with President Joe Biden. Many Republican politicians are critical of the U.S. continuing to financially aid Ukraine even after the president expressed the importance. Alex Murdaugh has pled guilty for the first time. Today, a U.S. district judge signed a plea deal for 24 federal fraud and money laundering charges. Murdaugh is also serving 2 life sentences for the 2021 murders of his wife and son. He says he pled guilty to show his living son he could take some responsibility for his actions. And a Northern California coroner's office reports Euphoria star Angus Cloud's cause of death was confirmed as an accidental overdose. Ireland, Morgan.
Thanks, Emery. With the recent surge in border activity, U.S. resources are being stretched thin. CNN's Ivan Rodriguez has the story.
A state of emergency is declared by the mayor in Eagle Pass, Texas, as the surge of migrants crossing the border continues. Also, in response to the surge, the Defense Department is deploying more than 800 new active duty personnel to the U.S.-Mexico border. Around 2,700 migrants crossed into the U.S. near Eagle Pass on Tuesday, while another 3,000 migrants crossed on Wednesday. Many migrants trekking a dangerous path.
What we consider to be a humanitarian crisis is what the people endure on the journey to the border in the hands of smugglers. We see so much trauma, so much tragedy.
Some people are drowning. Some people are dying in some of those ranches. If we find bodies or bones, whatever. So why take a risk? Why make those people come like this?
The Biden administration is providing humanitarian relief for Venezuelans by issuing more work permits.
We can't spike the ball, but we appreciate that 15,000 migrant asylum seekers are now something that we can look towards moving out of our care.
In the meantime, U.S. Customs and Border Protection is temporarily suspending traffic at the Texas border crossing to help the U.S. Border Patrol take migrants into custody.
It's something very strange. Never thought I was going to see something like that in Eagle Pass.
I'm Ivan Rodriguez reporting.
This move comes weeks after a Texas judge moved to remove the controversial Rio Grande border. Texas Governor Greg Abbott is still fighting this objection.
And when we come back, a possible connection between a common substance and women's health.
Hear what condition it could affect after the break.
And COVID-19 numbers on the rise again.
Find out what program is being relaunched.
The federal government has good news for COVID tests. Darian Curry has that and more in today's Health Beat.
Recently, the federal government announced it is relaunching the free COVID-19 test program. The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services Secretary says they are trying to carry out this program as soon as possible.
Have access to tests, and so we will once again begin our program to provide Americans with an opportunity to request tests.
This announcement comes after COVID-19 numbers have gone up by 8% in the past week. And the FDA announced there is bacterial contamination at a drug plant in North Carolina. The drug company Novo Nordisk says it found multiple types of bacteria in the main ingredient in a diabetes medication, Rybelsus. The company says they investigated the bacteria and decided to continue producing the drug. And the Open Access Medical Research Journal Network released a study linking artificial sweeteners to depression in women. The study's co-author says there's a possibility that women with chronic depression can worsen their condition with a poor diet. Other experts also say it's possible that depression and a higher intake of junk foods can have a negative effect on each other. And tomorrow is the last day to get on-campus flu shots. You can get them for free in Cross Building A from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Ireland, Morgan?
Thanks, Darian. After the break, an update on the Oklahoma City Animal Shelter.
A breakdown of when they will take in animals again when we return.
Storms making their way across the state today. We'll talk timing, who will be affected, and more coming up on OU Nightly. Well, welcome back to OU Nightly. We have had quite a cloudy Thursday for you all out there, and current conditions right now, we are in the lower 80s, so not too miserable outside with the heat, but we do have a little bit higher of a humidity, and with that heat and humidity, you know, we are tracking a little bit of rainfall moving in the area. Current temperatures across the state, though, we are in the lower 80s, even some areas reaching the 70s, 70 in Ardmore, 75 in Lawton, Enid hitting 79 degrees. And then we are also tracking that humidity that we are having, a little bit higher of a humidity here in areas of Oklahoma, especially central parts of Oklahoma, 63% in Oklahoma City, 66% in Norman. So with all of the heat and humidity, it is feeling a little bit hotter outside with the heat index values, just a tad though, 84 in Oklahoma City, 86 here in Norman. So a little bit warmer, but nothing that we haven't seen over the past few weeks. We do have a chance for severe weather for parts of southern and central Oklahoma into tonight. We are in a slight risk for areas Norman and south. This includes McAllister, Ardmore, and areas of Lawton as well, and areas north as well are going to have that chance of seeing some strong to severe storms overnight tonight. We do even have a slight tornado risk. This is a 2% on the Storm Prediction Center scale, so the risk is still there. And we're also tracking some damaging wind risks as well, especially in that area you saw in yellow earlier. And with that, we also do have a large hail risk as well in the same area. So large hail and damaging winds are something we are definitely tracking with those storms overnight tonight. And timing it out for you, you could see the storms do start to fire up right around 4, and then they're going to continue on, especially into the overnight hours here in central parts of Oklahoma, even up near Woodward and Elk City. People are going to be seeing these showers overnight tonight. You may hear some thunder overnight as you're sleeping, and until 5 a.m. if you are an early riser, you'll be seeing these storms start to make their way into the area. And then Friday, we do see a clear day once again with sunshine that is going to be peeking out, so that is a great day to be outside if you are wanting to be outside this weekend. But then we do have showers and storms moving back into the forecast, especially in parts of central Oklahoma, especially Saturday overnight and into the later evening hours. So that is something that we are also tracking as those do start to move in the area. Now, as we do head into the rest of the weekend, you can see these precip totals aren't going to be crazy high. We are going to reach up to 4 inches though, especially into parts of central Oklahoma. And we also do have another severe risk on Saturday, an areas of northeastern Oklahoma down into central Oklahoma. So that is something else we are also going to be tracking. Along with that state fair forecast, you can see we do have that rain chance and storm chance into the weekend, but Friday during the day and Saturday even during the day, it doesn't look too bad to head out to the fair. Lows tonight, we are going to be in the upper 60s, and then highs tomorrow, we're going to be warm again in the mid 80s, even some places reaching 90 degrees. You can even see that on the 7-day. We are going to continue to stay warm, especially over the next few days into the weekend, and then into next week we're going to stay in the 80s, but that sunshine is going to come back and stick around, especially into the earlier part of next week. So that's definitely something we can look forward to.
So what would you say for people who are wanting to go to the fair or haven't got to go? Which would be the perfect day to go considering the weather?
I'd say Friday, Saturday during the day. If you stay out during the day, you may even catch some sunshine if you're out at the fair. A great time to be there.
And in terms of Saturday, if we do have fairgoers out there, are they going to see rain earlier in the day? What can they expect just to be prepared?
It'll definitely be later in the day on Saturday. We are tracking that severe threat overnight on Saturday, even into the later evening hours. So definitely keep that in mind. That is something that we are going to be tracking this weekend.
Absolutely. Thank you, Carlin. And the Oklahoma City Animal Shelter is reopening after an infection outbreak shut down the facility for a month.
The shelter is hosting an adoption event this Friday, waiving fees for all cats and dogs to help with overpopulation.
However, the shelter is still unavailable to take in animals until September 26th and will be limited to 30 pets per day.
Shelter officials saying adoption events are essential to keeping the facility open to serve future furry residents.
And there's some new faces in the Big 12 this year.
With conference play starting Saturday, OU Nightly's Abby Williams tells us what the Sooners' main challenge is ahead of Saturday's game.
Thanks, guys. OU football is looking to continue their win streak this week versus new Big 12 member Cincinnati. And women's gymnastics has a special addition to their coaching staff. Stick around to find out about this familiar face. I'm Abby Williams, and it's time for sports. New teams in the Big 12 Conference present new trials for the Oklahoma football team. The Sooners head up to Cincinnati for their first Big 12 matchup of the season on Saturday. Some Sooners may remember Cincinnati QB Emory Jones from the 2020 Cotton Bowl from his time with the Florida Gators.
Just protecting the pocket, not letting him out, more contained rush, just getting him down when we get the chance. He's a mobile guy, probably kind of like SMU's quarterback, and just emphasizing not letting him out the pocket, not running up the field on pass rushing. So.
Four-star edge rusher Danny Okoye is staying in Oklahoma. The Tulsa native announced his commitment to the Sooners last night, choosing Oklahoma over Texas and Tennessee. Rivals.com lists Okoye as Oklahoma's #1 overall player in the class of 2024. One former Sooner and national champion is back on the mat, but this time as a coach. Head women's gymnastic coach KJ Kindler announced today that three-time national champion Olivia Troutman is now the student assistant coach for the program. Troutman was the 2023 NCAA vault national champion and finished her career with 5 perfect 10s. Big 12 play is ramping up on the volleyball court tomorrow night in Norman. The Sooners set up conference play with their biggest rivalry game of the season, where they play the #9 ranked Longhorns, both Friday and Saturday. Both games are at 6 p.m. in McCaslin Fieldhouse. Big 12 play has already started for OU soccer as they welcome Kansas State to John Crane Field. The Sooners have not lost at home this season. Tonight's matchup is at 7. Both Sooner tennis squads start their seasons today with 2 tournaments each. The women's team splits between the North Carolina State-ranked Spotlight and the Milwaukee Classic, and the men split between the Battle of the Bay in San Francisco and the U.S. College Cup Invitational in Mexico. Several former Sooners take the field tonight in Week 3 of Thursday Night Football. The New York Giants head west to face the 49ers, where San Francisco looks to remain undefeated. The Giants are without star running back Saquon Barkley, so Eric Gray could see a few more touches tonight. Kickoff is at 7:15. Ireland, Morgan.
Thank you, Abby. And coming up on OU Nightly, a bizarre hotel experience in Nashville.
Find out how guests stepped into a new role when we come back.
I'm Colson Pocock at the OU Nightly Update Desk. A man found unconscious and later pronounced dead in an oil tank in McLean County has now been identified as Daryl Deshaun Newton. Investigators believe that Newton fell unconscious due to the fumes from the tank. The McLean County Sheriff's Office is continuing to investigate the incident. Morgan, Ireland, back to you in the studio.
thanks Colson, and a check-in at their hotel turned into working the desk when a trio of travelers walked in to find no employees.
This all went down at an airport hotel in Nashville around 5 a.m. Now, they eventually found the general manager's phone number, only to find out she was at a convention in California.
Wasting no time, all three who work in the service industry stepped in to serve the other guests breakfast at 6 a.m.
Now, by 8 a.m., a regular employee had finally arrived on the job and was able to check those guests in.
I personally would have loved to have been checked in by a guest.
Oh, absolutely. And I know it was chaotic for them, but what a funny memory for them to take away with them as they head back out.
Absolutely, they won't forget it. And OU Nightly meteorologist Carlin McCreary joins us with one last look at the forecast.
Carlin, what's the timeline of these storms?
Yeah, we are going to already start to see some storms start to fire up in areas of the state, and we already are 5 to 6 seeing those storms pop up, and then we are going to continue to see storms overnight tonight, especially right around 10 p.m. here in Norman. Once again, we do have that severe risk in areas of southern Oklahoma, 2 out of 5 on the Storm Prediction Center scale. What we can expect with these is a chance for large hail, some damaging wind gusts, and we can't rule out any tornadoes either. And we are going to start to continue to see them, especially right around 4 and overnight tonight, ladies.
Thank you, Carlin. Thank you for watching OU Nightly. I'm Morgan Martin.
And I'm Ireland Fitzer. You can join us here on OU Nightly weekdays live at 4:30. Good night.